Well, it is a great pleasure to be here again, as I was last year and have been for several years, to speak to you. It's a very important organization, very fine people. I'm always pleased and honored to be asked to be here. I do have to say, has the speaker left? I do have to say that we had a roll call vote for Speaker Pro-Tem also. I got the 5-year-old vote, okay? Just want you to know. Mine was unanimous. So he's not here, is he? I hope not. All right. But we are starting a new 4-year term. Everybody's starting. He may not be gone. That's former Pro-Tem, that's correct. Well, you know, it should tell you this, that this man was a quarterback at Baylor. Okay, well, your Speaker Pro-Tempore was a second-string center at Kate Griffin Junior High School in Meridian. And he played more at quarterback at Baylor than I played center in Kate Griffin, I can tell you that for sure. So life kind of works that way, you know. So anyway, you know, in the House of Representatives, we have, I don't know how many new members you have in the Senate. You are still here. Sorry about that. I apologize, Mr. Speaker. In the House of Representatives, we have 26 new members. We have a lot of new faces. And I know in the Senate they have quite a few new members. I would ask you, as much as anything, as we get started in this process, try to remember that. We have some new folks. Every one of them were elected to make a difference. They feel very strongly about what they're here for. They're going to do a great job. It takes a little while to ease into that sometimes. So I would ask you to exercise a little patience, not only with the new members, but with the older members, because we're dealing with new people. Dynamic is completely different. And we need a little time, and hopefully you'll be gracious enough to grant us a little bit to get things going like they should. We feel confident we can hit the ground running, but again, we've got new people that are not familiar with the process, as they will be soon. So we would ask you to maybe be a little patient with us. I was asked, you know, you have these erstwhile friends. I was asked, what are you speaking about today, Snowden? You're going to be talking about changing the state flag, or raising the gasoline tax, or perhaps same-sex marriage licenses. I mean, I guess I've got a little bit of a reputation as a Mr. Controversy after last year. I think it was because when I addressed you last year, as you recall, I did address you about the Initiative 42 issue. It was a very important issue. It was the beginning of a process that lasted all year. Soon after I addressed you, you know, the legislature, House and Senate, took up an legislative alternative to that. And I want to particularly thank, I know as an organization you didn't take a position, but many of you in this room as individuals did participate in that debate and helped us make the case why we did not need and should not adopt that change to the Constitution. And for those of you that did, I want to sincerely thank you on behalf of myself, and I'm sure of many others as well, but for taking that position and being active in that, engaged in that debate. It was very important. I want to talk to you about today something that is probably more important, in all honesty. In fact, I have said that, and I believe this very, very well may be the most significant thing we do in our legislative careers, and that is what the legislature now, House and Senate together, are doing to implement performance-based budgeting for the state of Mississippi. The Speaker alluded to this. This is extremely important. It shouldn't be controversial, although I anticipate it's going to meet with some resistance, because change does that. Part of when I was accepting my election the other day, I talked about the difference between authority and leadership, and I made the point, at least I hope I made the point, that one of the things about authority is it's protective of your norms. That's just what you do. Leadership, on the other hand, identifies unproductive norms and challenges that. And so leadership is in some ways much more difficult than authority, and in fact it's not the same thing, and sometimes contrary, because leadership gets you outside of your norm. Authority is about protecting the organization. Leadership is about challenging the organization. So it's a challenge before us. So we may have some blowback on it, but it's critically important what we're doing performance-based budgeting. It's a really pretty simple idea. It's when we make decisions on funding something, money we're spending, your money that we're spending, that we have some evidence-based, some data-driven, program-level analysis that supports that this dollar we're spending, your dollar, is actually going to achieve what we hope it will achieve, what we expect it to achieve. It's a matter of even your best guess, you're funding this program because it feels like it ought to work, and people like the program, and they're telling you, man, this is great, but you don't really have any performance metrics. You don't have any way of analyzing that to see if it's actually achieving the result that we want. So the state of Mississippi has embarked on what's called Results First. It's a I guess you would call it a program. It's an initiative, really, of the Pew Charitable Trust, the MacArthur Foundation. They're having, I think about 20 states now that are involved in this. We're kind of on the cutting edge of that, state of Mississippi. And the idea is to develop performance-based standards so that we can have some surety that when we spend your dollar, we're spending it on something that will work. Now, we use data to do this, and we need to drive down to get the program level data to be able to make these decisions. I'll give you an example, and I'm not picking on mental health. It just come to mind. Mental health, if you come in to, say, our budget meetings, they may make a proposal for an additional facility, new hospital, number of staff. Well, that's all well and good, and they probably need those things, and we understand that. But the question we really want to ask and have them answer is, how many people are you making better? How are you going about that? What programs are you utilizing that facilitate that? Show us how people are getting better. That's what the mental health department is about. It's about making people better. And those are the sorts of questions we want to ask throughout state government at a very fundamental program level basis and have some evidence that will support doing that. Some quick examples. So you may remember, many of you remember the Scared Straight program. I don't know if we ever had it all that active in Mississippi, but Scared Straight was a program where you would take young people, teenagers, high schoolers, take them out to the prison and let them see how awful it was out there. And they would learn how awful the prisons were, and they'd never want to go there, and it would scare them into being straight. That's the idea. Feels like it ought to work. Pretty good idea, right? And it had the benefit of not being that expensive either on a per person basis. So it's money you can spend, and you can, when they did the work on this and the data came in and they analyzed this, they found out not only did it not work, it actually had a counteractive effect. They go out there and they see many of the people from the old neighborhood, and everybody looks cool out there. They're kind of being led down a road that we didn't want them to be led in. It was actually counterproductive to what we expected it to do. On the other hand, there's some relatively expensive programs that we can institute. Expensive when I mean the bottom line of the budget. One that comes to mind is kind of an in-house drug treatment for prisoners. You've got a captive audience there, no pun intended. They're going to attend, they're going to participate. That's relatively expensive, but when you do the analysis that these people can do to show the societal benefit, you basically are looking at recidivism, those that don't show up as compared to people that don't go through this. You see that even though that's expensive as a bottom line on your budget, it's really a great impact and a great value for society. So those are the types of decisions that we're going to try to be making. Drug courts are another example. We know drug courts nationwide, if they're run correctly within the parameters that are set out for best practices, if they're run correctly, they work. They reduce recidivism, and they are a progressive sort of thing to implement. However, if you don't run them in accordance with the standards where they need to be run, they don't have the effect. We have, and I'm not going to call them out, but at least one, I think perhaps two drug court districts within the state of Mississippi. They were running a drug court, and everybody involved was good. They were good people. They were running this program, but they were outside of the stand. For one thing, they were cherry picking their population, and when you do that, we think these people will do well. Well, you really can't do too much of that, or you're really not getting the overall impact that you need out of a program such as that. They also were keeping people in the program longer than necessary. And so when you laid all that out, the cost analysis of it and the benefit, that drug court really was not succeeding very well. So that's a matter of learning that from your analysis, learning that from your data, and then implementing a regimen where they have to abide by these best practices and have to fall within the parameters, because when they do that, drug courts work. We know that from the data. Finally, we've already used this, particularly in corrections, the Regimented Discipline Program, RID program. We eliminated that last year. That was a program that a lot of people seemed to think was working, and all our data showed that it was not. And so it's something that allowed us to do. I'm going to wrap up here, but I'm going to point out to you, some of this is available online. Our peer committee, a legislative peer committee, it really is our point organization within the legislature to deal with the results first. A lot of this information is available online. You can see the statewide plan. We identify well, first of all, we inventory the programs. We couldn't find out how many programs there were that state agencies ran. The state agencies didn't know. So one of the things you do is inventory your programs so you know how many you have. Then you derive performance benchmarks and metrics for each of those, and it fits in with the statewide plan of our overall goals and objectives for every level of state government. This is not something that happens overnight. You understand that. It's something that's going to take a matter of years, but when we succeed in doing this, and I'm proud to say the Senate and the House worked as well together on this as just about anything I've ever seen. Everybody understands the significance and the importance of this. I think we're just now getting the attention of the public, and perhaps a little more so of the media, that this is really a big deal. This is a big deal. Just because it's not happening all at once, this is a big deal. You're going to be hearing more and more about it as we move forward. And I just encourage you to find out as much as you can about it and to be supportive of it. There are going to be some state agencies that are going to give us some blowback because it's different. We're requiring them to gather data that they haven't had to gather before, or do certain things they haven't had to do before. But at the bottom line, at the end of the day, we're going to be able, hopefully, to make more important decisions about what we fund, what we don't fund, and make sure that the dollars you send up here, we make work and are not just putting them off into something that we hope works, but something we have some surety that it will work. So that's on the horizon. That's happening now. I'm very excited about that, as much as you can be excited about something wonky like that. But I'm glad to share that with you. And again, go online. If you're interested in this, look as the peer committee, and you can find some of these publications, tell you a little bit more about this. And well, I'll be happy to answer any questions about it later if you want to call me. Anytime you'd like to do that, I'd be proud to talk to you. Thank you again so much for being there. One thing I meant to say that I failed to mention, I do want to also congratulate my friend, Senator Terry C. Burton, who's the new President Pro Tem of the Senate. I've known Terry for many years and look forward to working with him as my counterpart, really, and I'm his counterpart in the respective bodies. I do want to congratulate Terry. Thank you so much.